To supplement several of my other videos outlining why the Christian God is logically not feasible, here is one more nail in the coffin. This video is going to focus solely on one aspect of the Christian God, which is seldom discussed: omni-benevolence. This phrase is virtually synonymous with the phrases all-merciful and all-good. First, let's talk about omni-benevolence. What does it mean that a God is omni-benevolent? It means that not only is that God merciful, but always merciful. It also means that when a God is merciful, it is not just somewhat merciful, it is infinitely so. So, to put it another way, if you find an instance where a God could have been even a little more merciful, then you know outright that it is not a God which is omni-benevolent. This is because a God who always acts in a way that displays infinite mercy is truly omni-benevolent, while a God who only mostly acts with infinite mercy is not truly omni-benevolent. Now that we know what we're looking for, let's look at the Christian God. In order to find out whether or not this particular God is omni-benevolent, we're going to focus on some of his actions and orders in the Old Testament. One of the most vivid examples comes from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 13, verses 13 to 19. This particular example is addressed to the Israelites, and gives a detailed explanation of what to do if several people from one of the cities that their God gives to them choose to worship another god. The command is as follows. First, investigate to make sure that these accusations of worshiping other gods are true. If they are, proceed to murder everyone in the city. Yes, I said everyone, and yes, that means the women, children, babies, and unborn. Afterward, as if this wasn't enough, proceed to slaughter all of the cattle. Yep, for no reason. After that, grab all the stuff that the people you just murdered once thought was valuable, pile it in the middle of the street, and burn it all. Then, burn the rest of the city. In fact, don't just burn it, but burn it so that it stays burnt forever. And don't just make it burnt forever, but burnt so severely that it can never be built upon ever again. So, there you have it. That's what God wanted the Israelites to do. He commanded it of them, by penalty of his wrath. With this in mind, let's take a look and see if we can find any instances where the Christian God could have been more merciful. For starters, how about the command to murder others for worshiping other gods? This seems a little harsh, and I think perhaps only about 10 years in jail would have sufficed. In fact, I think there are probably a million different punishments, ranging from absolutely nothing to 50 years in prison, which could have been more merciful. Next, let's look at the murder of the entire town of the foreign god worshippers. Again, it's not difficult to imagine a less extreme punishment for people who have done absolutely no crime, except be in the same town as people who also haven't committed a crime to begin with either. So, again, the innocents of this town could have received no punishment at all, or they could have received a lifetime in prison, or any possible combination in between, but they didn't. They were murdered. And now on to the killing of the cattle. If you haven't already noticed, this entire ordeal is extreme overkill, and the next parts are no exception. So, God commands that all the cattle are slaughtered for no reason. Along with the people of the town, these animals are innocent, except that animals don't even have the brain capabilities to conceptualize disobeying God, so what crime have they committed? Just like the citizens of the town, it appears that their only crime is that they were somewhere nearby the people who worshipped another god. So, for the third time, these animals could have been not punished at all, or they could have been incarcerated, or any number of punishments in between these two extremes. And finally, the burning. For anyone who actually reads the passage, it literally sounds like the anger of a 7-year-old who wants to win at the game he's playing, but he wants to make it so that only he gets to win, forever. I mean, even after all the innocent humans and cattle are dead, you then burn their valuables as an offering to God? Let's just wait a minute and consider why God would even want this in the first place. But that's a question for a different time. The main issue is that there was absolutely no reason to burn the innocent people's valuables in the middle of the street, and there was absolutely even less reason to burn the entire city, so that it's a wasteland forever which can never be built upon. Okay. Now we have our example, and we know that there are literally millions of more merciful actions which could have been done, instead of the actions which were ordered by the Christian God. So, speaking in the realm of omni-benevolence, we know that, logically, the Christian God cannot be omni-benevolent. Remember, The key to this conclusion is not only that this God could have performed these more merciful actions, but that, in order for him to be truly omni-benevolent, he must have performed these all-merciful actions to begin with. Because all merciful actions cannot have more merciful options available, we know that without a doubt, Yahweh was not omni-benevolent. If you don't agree, or you are hesitant, examine some more of the Old Testament, and keep in mind that this is just one example. We're not even going to get into the more than 2 million other people supposedly killed or ordered killed by God in the Old Testament alone. However, let the examples in the Old Testament serve as weight to the argument that God did not always act with infinite mercy, and therefore could not be the God which is purported to exist by Christians.